Hello, my name's Paul and I'm with historisk Prepper. Today I'm going to tell you why prepping is often conflated with conspiracy theories and lunatics. The problem is that it's received a bad rap in the media, and people have started to think that people who are prepping, because times have been so good, they believe that people who are prepping are doing it unnecessarily and they're crazies that are crying that the sky is falling. But you know, the reality of it is that this actually goes against what we see in nature. We see that bees store their honey for the winter. We see that ants also store their food for lean times, and even squirrels themselves will store nuts and their acorns so that during the winter and the spring, when there's no food available, they can actually access the food. When we look at the animals actually doing this kind of thing, we don't think to ourselves, maybe these animals are conspiracy theorists because they're preparing when there's times of plenty so that they have food when there's lean times ahead of them. None of us think that. We think that they're very prudent, they're working very hard. The same thing as a beaver that goes and drags the trees and is constantly clipping branches off so they have sufficient food stored. We think it's prudent, we think it's wise. So there has been this perception shift in society where we have been taught to rely on very fragile systems rather than being self-reliant. Now, bear in mind our ancestors prepared, and we owe our very existence and our current society to their diligence and hard work. If our ancestors hadn't have prepared, we wouldn't even be standing here today. They would have froze to death in the winter, or they would have starved to death. Now, by not taking prepping seriously, what we're doing in reality is we're spitting on the very thought process and mindset that makes modern life possible. Because we wouldn't even have modern life. We wouldn't even be standing here to even be watching this video or having this discussion. So we have to think very carefully if we start poo-pooing this idea of preparedness and start falling for the media narrative. We have to understand what preparedness actually is. Now, what's interesting is that the same people who are poo-pooing preparedness and they're making fun of people who prepare, oftentimes they're the same elite oligarchs that are prepping and have thousands of acres of farmland, and they've got bunkers and seed vaults and 100 years worth of food storage, and they're the ones that are laughing at the preppers. So that to me makes no sense. Why would the elite and the richest people in the world have food stores that are available for them and be setting themselves up so they don't have to depend on these same systems that they own? Yet they are laughing at people who are preparing. To me, that would send alarm bells ringing. Now, prepping is a modern term. The concept actually comes from homesteading, or in Scotland it's known as crofting, or in Norwegian it's known as being a husmann. So it's having small scale farming and production where you're able to produce enough for you and you can trade. It's nearly like subsistence farming on a very small scale so that you're very self-sufficient. And it decreases your reliance on outside sources for your survival. Now, in my opinion, I believe that it's wise, responsible, and even educational because it is at the very foundation of a stable society. If things collapse, we don't fall into a state of disaster immediately, but rather we can overcome those challenges because we have the ability to rebuild and resupply ourselves from our own storehouses. And I think that if you prepare, if you start to produce your own food, if you start to store things, if you start to manage your resources wisely, I think it actually starts to create very good quality traits in people and actually makes the community and the society at large a better place to live. So I hope you found this video interesting. If you have any comments to add, please do so in the comment section below. Feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and leave us a like. Thanks, guys.